The entire world has been dramatically impacted by the problems of this industry. Now, if you take this one step further and say that this is a high multiplier industry, lots of jobs for every job in the industry, that if it were to fail, would cause financial chaos and travel across the world very, very quickly.
General Motors' plan going into bankruptcy calls for it to eliminate thousands more jobs, close about 1,000 more dealerships. They're looking for buyers for their European operations, for Hummer, for Saab, for Saturn, and the Pontiac division will go away. So General Motors talks about having 4 core brands, and that's what they'll take as they go into bankruptcy protection.
You are about to witness the very exciting story of a city and its people.
Detroit was a 20th century boom town, and much of that prosperity was due to General Motors. It was an opportunity for immigrants, people without even a high school education, to come in and have a middle-class lifestyle, to own a home, to have a couple of cars, to send their kids to college. And it was a dream that kind of started to burst in the 1970s, but I guess the helium has been leaking out of the balloon for a long time.
Let me be clear. The United States government has no interest in running GM. We have no intention of running GM.
President Obama now has put himself in the position of savior-in-chief of the auto industry. He's decided to stake a lot of his reputation and legacy on how he's going to save this iconic American industry.
I did work for General Motors for 22 years, and I'm retired now. The biggest part of my income is my pension, and if I were to lose my pension, I just don't know, I don't know what I would do.
From 1931 to 2007, General Motors was the world's largest automaker. The company helped define the new breed of large multinational corporations and played a significant role in shaping the post-war economy of the United States.
General Motors is building its 50 millionth car. No one has ever come close to that before.
It was once said, as goes General Motors, so goes the nation. But over the past 30 years, all has not gone very well for GM. There has been bad business decisions, poor innovation, plunging sales, and a lineup with more misses than hits. As a result, the 100-year-old company is now struggling for survival.
The lack of availability of credit at a time when our balance sheets are weakened by borrowings has really hurt not only our ability to fund ourselves, but our consumers' ability to buy cars.
While auto sales for all of the car makers have been devastated by the worst economic climate since the Great Depression, General Motors has had to burn through its cash reserves to stay in operation. More than 200,000 current employees worldwide depend on GM staying in business, as do countless suppliers, dealers, and service providers.
If you look at, just as an example, an assembly plant, for every job in that assembly plant, there are 8 or 9 jobs elsewhere, either in the community supporting that plant, providing services, or in the supply structure supporting that plant. And the risk is that if we don't do the right things, we have a really big problem.
In late 2008, then CEO Rick Wagner, along with the heads of Chrysler and Ford, went before Congress and asked for help.
Can you just tell me in absolute terms, how much money do you need to survive, General Motors, from today until March 30th?
Congressman, it's going to depend on what happens with suppliers and markets.
I understand it. Give me your worst case scenario.
The worst case scenario, the amount of money would be significant.
Despite having borrowed nearly $20 billion from the federal government since December, GM has remained deeply in debt. So now, after months of frenzied but failed restructuring, General Motors announced it is filing for bankruptcy. The U.S. government is expected to lend an additional $30 billion to the company and will now be a majority stakeholder.
I think there's been a lot of false information about what bankruptcy means. Essentially, Chapter 11 means you get a chance to start over. You get a chance to go in and get rid of contracts that are too expensive and, for example, the number of dealerships. They would be able to eliminate those in bankruptcy. It isn't death. It isn't liquidation. They're talking about creating a new General Motors, which could go in and out of bankruptcy they say fairly quickly. My experience covering the airline bankruptcies is that bankruptcy is never predictable, that deadlines move, that you really can't rely on everything to go very smoothly. And General Motors parts maker Delphi has been in bankruptcy since the fall of 2005 and has yet to emerge. So this could go on for years.
One of the biggest challenges GM now faces is what a bankruptcy does to its image and its sales.
When you look at something as expensive and long-lasting as a car, and particularly when you have so many other choices, that probably would be a key factor in a buying decision.
Your warranty will be safe because it is backed by the United States government.
President Obama, he was saying, you know, you still need to buy cars and trucks from these companies and we'll protect you.
If you are considering buying a car, I hope it will be an American car.
The president has put himself in a situation where he has got to keep these cars moving out of those sales lots. It's a weird position. I've never seen a president so, aggressively try to sell me a product.
I've always said that GM has a lot of good product there.
The one thing that's amazing to me is that Obama put this much on the line for an industry that was very important during the campaign, but the campaign was not about the auto industry. So the fact that now he has put so much on the line for these two car companies, he could lose everything in this.
We got here not because our workers didn't do a great job trying to build a great product. It was because management decisions betrayed workers.
In addition to the currently reduced workforce at the company, among those anxious about a General Motors bankruptcy are the hundreds of thousands of GM retirees who depend on pensions and health care from the company. Those benefits are now at risk of being reduced.
My name is Johnny Sharp, and I live in Flint, Michigan, and I'm 75 years old. And I did work at General Motors for 22 years, and I'm retired now. I retired in 1996. A lot of my families have worked for GM, starting with my husband, my 3 daughters, and my 2 sons. And now I have 3 grandchildren working for GM. How long that's going to be, I can't say.
Along with her monthly Social Security checks, she relies on her GM pension, as well as a small survivor's pension for her deceased husband, for income.
Even though my home is paid for, I got to pay taxes, and I got to pay my heating, my water bill. I don't know what I would do about my insurance. Me being 75 years old, I can't go and get another job.
For now, Johnny keeps a watchful eye on the news, waiting to see what the future brings.
Well, there are some signs of improvement in our economy tonight. I want to share with you very quickly.
You mean there's been an improvement?
Consumer confidence.
I'm hoping and praying with Obama in the White House that there will be a light at the end of the tunnel.
I can tell you that no matter what happens, we want to provide certain protections to retirees for their health care and their pensions.
Once we see some stability and growth, where the real market future comes is not from the unemployed folks, it's that 92 or 1%, whatever that number is, that all of a sudden begin to feel optimistic about the future and begin to buy, and they will have been doing some savings, and they could expect to enter the market quite aggressively.
One of the biggest issues that GM and other companies will face is what the market looks like when it eventually starts to come back. There are a lot of people who think it might come back the same way. Others think we're at a turning point, that Americans have reassessed how they drive, what they own, how many cars they own, how often they're going to use them, and that when we come out of this, we might see a new sort of soberness on the part of American car buyers. So it may not be as easy as GM and the other companies are hoping.
None of this will come without cost, nor will it be easy.
If these companies continue shedding jobs and they're not selling cars, he's going to be in trouble. I don't know what the timeline is. I think everything for Obama is a 2-year window, I would say. That when he's gearing up his re-election effort, he's got to have some of these policy issues resolved. So, give him 3 years tops, that these companies have to be adding jobs and putting a lot of good cars on the road.
We are committed to the goal of a retooled, reimagined auto industry that can compete and win. Millions of jobs depend on it. Scores of communities depend on it. And I believe the nation that invented the automobile cannot walk away from it.